All right, we're back again for another episode of Personality Crisis with Mark Jacobs. We didn't get to all the things we wanted to talk about the last time. Uh, so we're back again. And what I'd like to talk about this time is your current venture. Last time we spent good bit of time and energy discussing media failures, particularly at the New York Times. I'd like to hear from you about your new venture, other ventures like it, and what you think might be the way forward for a vibrant, honest, financially successful media. And you
Yeah,
have
well, that.
experience
I
with
mean, financially successful is the hard part.
right,
Uh, I mean, because to some extent, the costs of entry have gone way down. It used to be in the old days you had to have a bunch of trucks and buy a bunch of gasoline and have giant printing presses, and used to cost you a lot to get into the news business. Now it doesn't cost you nearly as much. You can join Substack or some other newsletter outfit, and right there, and or you can do podcasts, you can do shows on YouTube. There are a lot of ways to enter the market locally. You can just create a website and start doing the reporting. So those are all good things. I mean, to me, the real problem that we have in this country as far as media is how much of the big media, the legacy media, the big, loudspeaker kind of media is owned by corporate interests, and who don't really care at all about journalism. They just kind of care about their other interests. For example, you have Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post, but Jeff Bezos owns outfits that are a lot more important to him than the Washington Post, namely, Amazon or Blue Origin. And so I feel like he's willing to sacrifice the Washington Post to placate Trump or to get leverage on Trump, because he knows that Trump cares about what the Washington Post says, and therefore, if he can kind of keep the Washington Post editorial side, at least the opinion side, pro-Trump, then he can placate Trump, and Trump won't sabotage Bezos's other businesses that he cares much more about and makes more money at. Same thing with the Ellison family, picking up CBS and piece of TikTok, and looks like they're on track to get CNN also. They have a lot of other businesses that make a whole lot of other money. So in some ways, the media holdings they have are kind of hedges, against Trump, going after him on other things, or it just buys goodwill with the Trump regime, and so you end up having this big corporate media whose first obligation they feel is not to tell the truth to the American people. They're just trying to tell enough truth to where people don't quit them, but they're trying to make sure that they stay on the right side of the criminal in the White House. So that, I mean, so then the problem is not that you can't get into media. It's kind of there's this giant competition for attention, and the legacy outfits, the networks, etc. They start out with a big advantage.
is it as simple as trust busting? Is that what we're going to have to? Is that one of the things we're going to have to do? Is break up all these media conglomerations?
I think that is a big part of it. And you have right now in the FCC, you have an attempt. Nexstar is trying to buy Tegna, which these are local TV news chains, stations, and there used to be a rule. There's really actually still a rule in place that says that you can only have your footprint in a certain percentage of American households. That's to prevent one person from owning stations everywhere and blasting their propaganda. It's the reason why monopolies are bad, is that they stifle competition and a free flow of both ideas and products. But the FCC right now finds Nexstar to be friendly to Trump, because they own News Nation, which is this right wing they pretend they're moderate, but they're really right wing uh, outfit. So the FCC under Brendan Carr is now trying to uh, increase the percentage of American households that can be reached by one local TV news chain. And so that's about to happen, and Nexstar will reach 80% of American households. So, yeah, you're totally right. I mean that a large portion of this is busting up the trusts. It's it's Teddy Roosevelt going in with a big club and busting up the trusts.
Even though we have like lots of people like you out there doing your individual thing, and there's lots of examples of this. You get talking points memo and all sorts of other little. I don't think it can ever take the place of the national media, and I wonder how we get to a place where we have actual solid individual based journalism like you're doing under an umbrella large enough that it'll reach the eyes. Is that the future? I guess what I'm really doing is reinventing the Huffington Post, aren't I? Or
Yeah,
trying.
it's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to shake out. Um, but I do think that I used to when I was a daily newspaper person at the Tribune at the Sun Times in Chicago. I used to tell young reporters, I'd say, the main product we're delivering is not ink on paper. It's not a web page. It's trust. It's credibility. It's people actually seeing, oh, it's in the Tribune, it must be true, rather than saying it's in the Tribune, I don't really believe it. And so what we really were selling was trust in ourselves, and which can be easily lost if you get sloppy and you don't get your facts right. And that's why I would remind people of that all the time, is that it's tough to gain trust, it's easy to lose it. And so yeah, that's the product that's being sold. So, I mean, yes, if you could get a kind of a conglomeration of a lot of different voices, doing these individual podcasts, newsletters, etc., and put them under an umbrella in which they had really strong standards for accuracy and fact finding in this. Yeah, you could really have something going there, and maybe that could develop the scale that the legacy outfits already have. So I think this is a great idea, but it requires somebody to actually do it.
Right. We'll probably somebody with money like Jeff Bezos,
Yeah.
who has no
Well, that's the
problem.
thing. I mean, it's the end of these wealthy people didn't get wealthy by giving all their money to charity. And what we really need in this country right now are extremely wealthy people who want to think about country over themselves, and really would want to build a quality news outlet. I mean, I my newsletter Stop the Press is sponsored by Courier, and Courier is this kind of startup that is in about a dozen states right now with local newsrooms, and is trying to build a national network like that. But it's tough going, and it requires just kind of steady work, and it requires money, it requires contributions, and there's a lot of money on the right. This. I mean, I was reading Dark Money by Jane Mayer, the really excellent book that she wrote, and she explains how these extremely rich right wing people were seeding money in all these like radio stations and stuff like that in these radio shows. If you think that Rush Limbaugh got to where he was just because he was clever and said things people wanted to hear, no, it's because rich people were giving him a bunch of money to get his show on the air.
Right.
I mean, it's really a money game, and it's just really up to people. If there are any like super wealthy people out there who actually care about democracy, it's really time for them to start paying for good journalism.
I saw something somewhere. I don't know, one of the social media videos where they were talking about influencers who had been approached by political campaigns to pay them to
Yeah,
support it. And the telling thing to me was that the right wing candidates offered something like $20,000 for, you know, a couple TikToks or a couple videos, and the liberal ones offered them $500 in a partnership. And
Yeah, right. Well, people don't. I think this whole influencer thing is kind of creepy to me, but it's the way it's going. Yeah, I mean, and you have some of these right wing podcasters. It was fairly recently found out that they were getting money through the Russians.
oh yeah,
That
Tim Pool and all them.
yeah, that I mean, they claim they didn't know that, but I mean, you would think that people would figure out where their
I've
money's
never
coming
made more than $30,000 a year, but this $500,000 check from
from.
Bratislava,
Really, I wonder what that's all about. Oh well, I'll just spend it.
yeah.
It's. You would think that they would be more suspicious of that. So when I write about it, I say they supposedly did not know because I just have my wonders about that.
Now you have a journalistic background, and do you find that a lot of the startups or things like what you're doing are former journalists, or do you have a healthy mix of journalists and people that just set out to do it on their own? What are you seeing?
Well, actually, there are kind of two kinds. One is, yeah, former. I mean, they're still journalists. I mean, it depends what kind of newsletter you do. I do one that has. I don't do a lot of kind of an original reporting. I do a lot of more commentary than that, and historical context and stuff like that. But some people actually, going out there and covering the court cases and writing about it, and that's their beat, and that's what their newsletter or their podcast is about. And they're all. I think some of the best are people who come from areas of expertise and bring those. People. You have several
I
former U.S.
I really
U.S.
think you're right there. I think the key to this is people, because it goes back to your trust and their level of expertise. I
Right.
think if people well, a good example is Mr. Global. Do you ever watch Mr. Global?
No, I guess I should, huh?
The guy that talks about, oh, he's an oil and gas industry expert, and he's cited almost everywhere about giving like an unvarnished, no BS. This is what's going on. No, they don't like this. No, they don't like all the things Trump says he's going to do because what they like is stability. Blah blah blah. But I think from what I've seen is all the ones I've been most impressed with are people that have like a very narrow focus
Hmm.
of expertise, but are also really, really good at speaking to laymen
Right.
about their area of expertise, and they're the ones that get called up on TV shows, or they're the ones that get called up to
Right.
go into newspapers with all the stuff they're doing. Uh,
Yeah, there's some good like former U.S. attorneys and who are
oh
doing that,
yeah,
and I think they're extremely valuable because they're talking about what they know about. I mean, in my newsletter, to Stop the Presses, I try to mostly talk about stuff I know about, which is how newsrooms are run and why decisions get made to play up specific stories. I used to like what I was at one point in time. I was page one editor at the Chicago Sun Times, which was a tabloid, so we had very snappy headlines, and I was doing page one, so I was writing all those snappy headlines. So I understand how difficult or easy it is to write headlines, and therefore I do a lot of critiquing of headlines. And sometimes people will say, why are you just picking on the headlines? What about the story? Well, let's be real here. A lot of people are scanning readers, and they read, they may read 30 headlines a day, and they may read one news story. So, headlines are super important. They're way important compared to anything else
very.
related. And so that's one of the things I am an expert at is how headlines get written and what gets left out or put in.
Uh, any advice for anyone starting out?
For well, develop an expertise. I think get good at something. And get. I mean, whether it's a history of warfare in America, which would be great if you were an expert at American warfare. That would be great for you to be writing insightful things about what's happening in Iran right now. Foreign policy stuff. I mean, tax law, and entertainment law. I guess my advice for for young people starting out who want to make an influence in media is become an expert at something. And not just at writing words. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not just a matter of just typing things up. Become an expert at a specific area and become accomplished at it. And then, as you said, be able to translate it for normal people. I mean, that's a real trick. That's actually one of the skills that like daily journalists have, is the ability to translate things into plain English, and which is harder than you might think.
Before we leave, I'd like you to once again plug your newsletter, and I'd also like you, if you could, to name one or two other newsletters that you've been reading that are produced by men and women in similar situations like you that you find very valuable, that I'd be an absolute fool if I didn't add to my daily reading rotation. Obviously, yours, of course.
Yeah, well, mine is it's called Stop the Presses. It comes out weekly. It's free, and it looks at how right wing extremism has exploited the weaknesses in American journalism. And so, if you just put in my name, Mark Jacob, MarkJacob, no S, and put Stop the Presses in, put that in Google, and you'll get it. You'll find it, and just subscribe. And if you think I'm an idiot, you can unsubscribe with one click. So no, it's not exactly a big risk. The several of the things I really like. A friend of mine, Jennifer Schulze, here in Chicago, writes a very good media analysis newsletter. It's SCHULZE, Jennifer Schulze. It's called Indistinct Chatter. That's good. You know what? I'm a real admirer of Greg Sargent at the New Republic, who writes. He does an interview.
I think
He also,
everybody here is a Greg Sargent stan and has been since.
yeah, he and I. I've never actually met him in person, but he and I talk a lot on messaging and on email, and I think we developed a friendship that way. I think he's so smart, and I think he really focuses on what's going on. There are actually some extremely smart writers on the New Republic, so it's commentary. It's not straight news, but it's very incisive. I mean, they really kind of focus in on stuff. I also like ProPublica very much. I would always have to plug them because back they exposed Supreme Court corruption when the people who should have been exposing it for decades, the New York Times and the Washington Post, failed to do so, and NPR. And NPR's lead reporter on the Supreme Court was having a very deep friendship with Justice Ginsburg, so which should have disqualified her from even covering the Supreme Court, in my opinion. So I think that legacy media failed. ProPublica, which is free to access, but welcomes your contributions, often reports on stuff that the legacy media fail to recognize.
Is Daniel Dayan still at New Republic?
Who Daniel Dale?
Dayan, D-Day.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I don't have anything else I'd like to ask. I do want to thank you for coming along and appreciate the time you spent with us. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I guess the only thing I'd add is that we're in a real bad trouble as a country, but it's not too late, and now is the time to get involved. To contact your members of Congress, to speak out, to talk to your family and friends, to go to protests, to vote, to get other people to register and vote. Now's the time. I mean, it's almost too late, but it's not too late. So now is the time.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.